What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here to some preview, another Spurs game. It's been a long time since Spurs have played. It's felt like a long time since Spurs have played, to be honest, but we are back. We've got some notable inclusions in the squad this week, like James Maddison, which we're very excited for. We're going to get into the preview, the predicted lineup. But let's start off with the preview. I mean, what a big game it is tomorrow night, Friday night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Biggest game of the season so far. Pep Guardiola was in his press conference today talking about how this is already a cup final with the way these two teams are playing at the moment. He says that Spurs have been playing better than Man City all season, is what he said.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
That's very high praise.
So I think you're looking at these two teams going up against each other. It's going to be a big tactical battle. I'm so excited to watch it. And I think it's a game that definitely promises goals. That's for sure. You cast your mind back to a few months ago when we went up to the Etihad with a depleted squad. No Mickey van der Ven, no Kuti Romero, no James Maddison. And we ended up scoring 3 goals, letting in 3 goals. But what a game of football that was. And if it's to live up to anything, even half of the game that was, we're in for a treat, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a bit weird though. Like we've gained back Van der Ven, Romero, Maddison. We've lost Basuma, Sarr and Son.
Yeah.
So it's like you give and take. It's like there's just been how our season's gone, isn't it? Whenever we gain someone back, we lose another player.
At least it's not for injuries this time.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. In terms of injuries, yeah, we're only really waiting on Solomon, Valise, and who else is it? Gio. That's what we're waiting on. So
and they're saying Gio will be back for Brentford, so that's a big plus.
Yeah, so the injury situation is really improving, which is finally we're getting to a stage where I'm looking at the squad. It's so healthy and we've got players in each position. But look,
the only thing is that all the players at the AFCON and the Asia Cup have all won their games and all won their groups. Apart from Sonny today, didn't win his group, but they're through to the next round.
Yeah, and wouldn't be surprised still if they make it, make it to the final. But it's a massive game. It's our biggest game of the season so far. It's our only realistic chance of winning a trophy. I think having Man City at home in a weird way, it's a positive tie because I really feel like in an evening game under the lights against a City side who do tend to struggle at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it's all set up for an absolutely massive atmosphere at the Tottenham Stadium. It also means that if we do get that win, if we do manage to knock Man City out, that will just give this team so much confidence going forward, not just in the FA Cup, but also in the Premier League as well. And it'll just give this air of, I mean, look, not that we're lacking confidence anyway, because, we've taken on the best teams away from home and, gotten good results, but getting that really big win against a big team, especially in a cup game, would just really set up that second half of the season so nicely. And they really send out a message like, yes, we struggled over that game period where we had injuries, but with Maddison back now, Romero, Van der Ven now, this is the real Tottenham you're going to see now. And I really think that this game means more to us than it does for Man City. I know Man City, it's important to them and they want to redo the treble, but if Tottenham can get a whiff of a trophy, they will snatch your hands off for it. And I think you'll see that on Friday night. And I think that it's going to be high energy. I think we're going to obviously take the game to Man City. We know how we like to play. And I'm super excited of it. And I think there's no reason to be fearful of them. Obviously, they're Man City and they're best team in the world. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying that aren't going to be times where we're under the cosh and where we're going to have to dig deep and dig out results at some moments. But honestly, going to that game, and I really have this big feeling we could beat them. I really do.
I couldn't agree more. And you're looking at the form of the two sides coming into it, right? Man City, it seems as though they have turned a corner now. They had a sloppy first half to the season. Now they seem to be getting wins every week. You see that, look, last 5 games, all won. De Bruyne is back. You saw what he did when he came on against Newcastle, completely changed the game, won the game for them. No Haaland, which is a big plus in my opinion. It's probably going to be Julian Alvarez up there, which I think is probably a bit easier to deal with for our centre-backs than maybe Erling Haaland is. So I think that is a plus. But then again, on our side, there's no Heung-min Son. And Sonny is always the biggest danger man against Man City with that running in behind. We all have the dual threat potentially of Werner, Brennan Johnson, Kulusevski, who also likes the game against City. But 2 of us are missing our biggest stars, Man City and Spurs. But it's a strange one, isn't it? Because usually, as years have gone by, if Kane or Son was out for a particular game, particularly against like a Man City, you'll be thinking, oh, how the hell are we going to get a result here? But Sonny's out, and we're still sitting here being like, oh, look how confident we are, thinking that we can go get the result.
Yeah, and I think that's a consequence of Ange, and also because how I've seen it firsthand how we've reacted to players being out, and I think we've reacted really strongly as well. Having Maddison back and available is a massive boost. That's going to give everyone a lift. Imagine when his team's being read out by Paul Coit before the game. It's going to give everyone such a lift before the game as well. So as much as Sonny being out is a blow, I think we do still have enough tools to hurt them. We have enough pace going forward. I think the biggest thing, but if we didn't have Werner going into this game, I think I'd be looking at our front line thinking, well, do we have enough pace to really exploit Man City? That would be my biggest worry. But with Werner now through the door, he just gives us another option there. And so even without Sonny, we're still going to have that threat in behind, which Werner offers. And look, there are question marks at how effective he can be, but I remember at Chelsea against Man City, he very often had a very good game against them because he knows that Man City play a very high line, and Werner's biggest strength is exploiting that kind of space that a team like Man City will leave. So I'm not saying he's definitely going to score anything, but I definitely think he's going to hurt Man City. He's going to make them think twice about leaving the amount of space that they do. Because I'm just imagining, James Maddison in a deep line position, or even Pedro Porro picking out a Timo Werner, especially in a transition, very quickly, running in behind. You've got Brendan Johnson as well, who's got obviously amazing pace. He can attack that space as well. So I'm as much as I'm obviously missing Son is going to be a blow, I'm not as concerned as if we didn't have Werner. The reason about Werner is not because he's such a great player. It's just because the big thing about Man City, what they try to do is they try and pen you in, they try and suffocate you. And if you don't have an out ball, if you don't have a way of attacking them, they just keep coming back at you all the time. Yeah. And it all of a sudden becomes very hard to deal with. But if you have that threat going the other way and you show them, if you commit all these players forward, we're just going to hit you on the counter, then all of a sudden it makes them think twice. It makes them back off a bit. It makes them maybe leave some defenders in that space. So that's why we need Werner in this game. That's why he's so important, because he's going to be that player who's going to tell City, all right, you can go forward as much as you want, but if you leave that space, I'm going for it.
And you could definitely tell against Manchester United there was a big creative void in the side, with Skip, Højbjerg and Bentancur in the middle of the park. Pedro Porro was our chief creator from right back, inverting into the spaces into the midfield. But look what a change 10 days make. You've got James Maddison, who was probably the most creative player in the first 10 games of the season. Dejan Kulusevski, as well as Pedro Porro, Bentancur probably sitting behind them as well. So you're looking at a complete change, isn't it? Because that creative void that we had against Manchester United, or that creative block, should I say, is not going to be there.
Yeah, I hope so. Look, obviously, you have to wait and see what kind of condition Maddison's in, but I'm assuming
if he's ready to start,
yeah,
I'm
he's
sure
ready to start.
Fine.
I hope he's not rusty. It could happen. Your first came back, even if you've been training, you can be a bit rusty sometimes. So I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but it is a massive boost, and I think coming in such a big game as well, I think that will be something for him to have that extra bit of motivation to be as sharp as possible going into this game. And I also think we've bided our time with him. Obviously, we've had he's been out for quite a while, but other players have kind of rushed back. He seems to have been, taking his time, and I hope that patience will pay off with him coming back and being able to hit the ground running straight away. And it feels like so long ago he was in the team now. It feels like I'm looking back at peak Pochettino or something when I think about Maddison, because it just feels like so long ago. It's like a nostalgic feeling thinking about Maddison back in the team.
He's only had 10 Spurs games.
Exactly. And it just feels nostalgic. That's how long ago it feels. But it's going to be so great having him back in the team, because he was so great in those first 10 games. Unfortunately, he didn't get to play that game against Man City at the Etihad early in the season, but against Arsenal, he was unbelievable. He got 2 assists at the Emirates. Liverpool, I remember, he was a big part of why we won that game as well. So he's in the big games, he has stepped up so far in the few times we've seen it. Against Man United at home, he was brilliant.
He's been incredible in every single game he's played.
Pretty much. I don't think he's had a bad game. You're right.
It's not like he hasn't had a good game. He's had awesome games every single game.
So having him, I know Man City have a very, very tough midfield. Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, probably Bernardo Silva, but Maddison will be licking his lips. These are the games he lives for, I think. So I can't wait to see him back in action.
Completely agree. And
first time he linked up with Bentancur, hopefully as well.
That is going to be sexy. That really is going to be sexy. All three of them. How are you supposed to? We need to keep the ball, right? How the hell are they going to get the ball off those three midfielders? They'll just ping it around so quickly.
That's what I got hope for. But look, Man City, they could say the same. Rodri, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva.
Forget it, man. We got to concentrate on ourselves.
I'm just saying, this is the caliber we're playing against. Unbelievable best midfielders there are. So I'm thinking home advantage. I'm looking. I know. Well, we saw the form just before. Man City's form away from home is, I think, it's 5 wins on the trot. But I was looking at their performances away from home recently. 3-2 win against Newcastle, where they were 2-1 down. And
but that Newcastle game, I thought they were very unfortunate to be 2-1 down when they were, because they penned Newcastle in for the majority of that first half, and they just got 2 breakaways, Newcastle, and scored both of them.
Unbelievable finishes. The week before that, the away game before that, Everton 3-1. They were 1-0 down in that one and turned it around in the second half. Before that, Luton, they were 1-0 down in that one, turned it around. Well, before that, Villa, where they were comprehensively beaten 1-0. And before that, it was a 4-4 draw away at Chelsea. So as much as their form has been good, and obviously they're getting the wins, they definitely are conceding goals away from home, and that's definitely something we'll be looking at, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is something, don't know what it is, but there is something about Man City coming to N17. What goes on when they come to N17? Haven't scored a goal since 2015. And that's crazy in N17.
De Bruyne scored actually, but haven't scored since then.
But it's nuts.
It was a 4-1 win when
Dias, exactly. So I mean, that's a long time for them not to score. I know we were at Wembley for a good few of those years, but they've never scored a goal in our stadium as well, our new stadium. If you bring up the head-to-head, by that head-to-head, you would think we've got their number. We've beaten them 3 times out of the last 5 games, losing once.
That game we were 2-0 up as well.
At the Etihad. And then drew with a completely depleted team this year at the Etihad, going there with 4 fullbacks in the back line, which is crazy. So I do think, though, when you're looking at Man City, when you're looking at Tottenham, and when you're looking at this hoodoo that they have at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they are facing a very different Tottenham in terms of the way we play our football. A lot of the times at the Etihad, what have we been doing? We've been sitting low, sitting deep, soaking up pressure, and then hitting them on the break. We're not going to be doing that this time. So I can't see them not scoring this time, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Although no Haaland definitely helps that. But you're right, it's a different Tottenham. And also, you've got to remember some of those games are very, I think they missed penalties a couple of times in those games, especially one under Jose, I remember.
In the Champions League.
Goals in the Champions League, they missed a penalty as well. So we've definitely ridden our luck in a lot of those games. But I remember last season we thoroughly deserved the win. The season before that under Nuno, even we thoroughly deserved the win. There was one game under Mourinho, we won 2-0, and we definitely deserved the win as well. So
I think there's been some crazy stats in these Man City games, like the amounts of shots that Man City had over the course of those games.
I think in the games, the XG has been something like near 15 or something.
And 0 goals.
Maybe not 15, maybe 8. It was something really high though, and they haven't scored any goals. So it's definitely been a bit of a statistical anomaly that they haven't scored at the Tottenham Stadium. And even heard Pep, he was asked, I think it was earlier this year or maybe a year ago, what else do you have to achieve in football? What else do you want to do? He's like, please, I just want to score at the Tottenham Stadium, please.
The geezer's done it all. He's world champion. He's European champion, treble winners. They've done everything except for score at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They've literally done everything there is to do in football apart from score at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Which is absolutely insane to think about. But yeah, there is definitely some who do we have, which maybe gives us this confidence that we are going into it. But I'm not even looking at that. I mean, obviously that's part of it, maybe subconsciously, but I'm just looking at it, how we're playing at the moment with these players back, how Man City like to play, how we take the game to teams at home, how much this game means to us in terms of a chance of winning a trophy. We know if we can win this game, that would mean the world to the Spurs fans. If Man City win or don't win, they won the FA Cup last year. It doesn't really mean that much. Pep isn't being judged, or whether they go through or not. They've got Premier League, they've got Champions League to think about. If they go out the FA Cup, I don't think it's a big deal. For Spurs, this could mean everything this season if we make it through. And that's why I think that extra bit to try and get that trophy hoodoo off our back, I think that could make a big difference going into Friday.
What an unbelievable way if we were to do it this year, after the passing of Terry Venables not so long ago, as sad as it was, to do it in his memory, the last manager that won us the FA Cup. You know how things just kind of fall into place sometimes. It'll be such an amazing thing to do in the man's memory. But in terms of the Man City predicted lineup, this is what we've gone for. The injuries that they do have is Stones, Akanji, Haaland, and Ederson. So in goal is Ortega. What do you think of Ortega as a keeper?
I think he's been all right whenever I've seen him for City. I don't have a problem with him. I remember he made that massive mistake. I think it was in either an FA Cup final or semi-final a few years ago where Mane tackled him and put it in the net. Apart from that, whenever I've seen him step in for Man City, he's actually been okay. Not necessarily so much from a shot-stopping point of view, but definitely when it comes to playing out the back with his feet, he's definitely still very, very good. That's what I've seen. I don't think he's anything special, but I think he's been okay when he's played.
Yeah. Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, Nathan Ake, and Josef Gvardiol in the back. Kovacic, Rodri and De Bruyne, Grealish, Foden and Julian Alvarez up top. I mean, in terms of those players, I mean, every player stands out, to be honest. But you're looking at Phil Foden, who I think is having a sublime season this year. Kevin De Bruyne's back, which is a massive plus for them. And whenever Rodri plays, they look a formidable outfit. Rodri is just such a good midfielder. I would actually go as far to say he's the best midfielder in Europe at the moment. That's how good he is.
I agree with that. I also think Doku's probably going to start. I don't know if Grealish will start.
Is he definitely like fully fit, Doku? Did he play last game?
Yeah, he played against Newcastle.
Oh, he did.
He started. He played.
It wasn't that good against Newcastle.
He wasn't.
Was he?
But it was very interesting against Newcastle. He played a very weird position, which which you don't associate with Doku, where he played him very much like centrally, more inside. And you obviously, when you think of Doku, you think touchline, where the space is, beat his man. But he played him very centrally. And I don't think it's an experiment that kind of worked, but maybe it's something new he's trying, I'm thinking. I'm not sure why. Maybe in Haaland's absence, maybe he thinks he can offer him a bit more pace in behind or something like that. But it was a very interesting decision. Obviously, Foden was he's been marvellous in every game. I completely agree. He's going to be so hard to deal with. And I feel like sometimes... occasionally we can be a bit passive in our defending. We have to completely cut that out in this game if we're going to stop Man City. We're going to have to be very proactive because it's going to be a bit of a basketball game, I feel. And we have to make sure that Van de Ven and Romero, we know how good they can be, but that we have to make sure that everyone's defending for the team and getting in challenges and not just watching the opposition shoot. You've got to get in there and block the shots. And I feel like Foden is so good at that in the tight spaces, manipulating the opposition to do what he wants, and we got to make sure that we're sticking tight to him. And if he's going to get a shot from outside the box, we got to block it. And obviously De Bruyne, how do you stop him? I mean, it's going to be so hard. You just got to make sure he doesn't get on the ball, basically, because any time on the ball, and he's deadly. Yeah,
Bentancur's got to watch him. Romero stepping out from the defence as well has just got to be the first to any loose balls or trying to step in front of De Bruyne or whoever it may be, probably Alvarez. But you know what really worries me this game? This is probably my biggest worry, to be honest, because I think that we can create our chances, we can play our football. I don't think that's going to be the problem. But without Son's clinical edge, which we usually have against Man City and which usually puts us in such a good stead against Man City, we're going to have a front three of probably Johnson, Richarlison and Werner. And we all know on their day, all three of them can be very wasteful.
Yeah, definitely.
So, we need to take our chances in this game. So it's going to be imperative that these players step up and take those chances.
I'm undecided whether he'll do that, as you say, which I think gives us the biggest threat in behind, or does he add Højbjerg back in and put Kulusevski back on the right, which I remember at the Etihad, we started with Lo Celso and Kulusevski in a three with Hill in the up front, and then he decided it wasn't working, put Kulu back out wide, and then put Højbjerg in the middle. So whether he thinks, based off that game, that it worked better with Højbjerg there in the centre of Kulu back out wide, does he think again in this game that it'll work better, or do you think, look, it's too tempting not to have Johnson and Werner in a front three where all that space is going to be, especially in those wide areas, and that's the best way to hurt City?
The difference between that is, though, the Hill versus Timo Werner, basically, on the left-hand side, and Werner's going to be much more of a threat than Brian Hill ever would be. Mm-hmm. So I think you've got to look at it that way as well.
Is there any... we haven't even thought about it, but any possibility maybe he springs a surprise, maybe he goes a back three, which you ended the game against United?
I think there is a possibility. There's been a lot of talk about it, mainly by fans of recent weeks, and I don't dislike the idea, to be honest. I'd like to see it. I think it's very intriguing to see what we can do with the back three of Dragoshin, Van de Ven and Romero. But then how do you set up, obviously Porro, Udogie as the wing backs, then how do you set up the rest of the team?
Yeah, but it's weird how he plays it. It's like he has a three, how it builds up is like a three at the back, so Dragoshin, Romero, Van de Ven, and then it would be like, so Porro would kind of be wide right, but then Udogie would kind of be inverted next to Bentancur, and then to be Bentancur, Udogie in a kind of a pivot with Maddison, Kulusevski in a square kind of thing, ahead of them, and then it'll be four across the front line with Porro. Three with Porro, Richarlison, and Werner on the left hand side. So which is like a 3-2-2-3 kind of thing.
This is a bit nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very. The thing is, like, I would like to see it, but for a first time, I don't know if Man City at home is the best course of action to do it in.
Maybe it's the best way.
Maybe, yeah. Who knows? There's a couple of ways you can look at it,
I agree.
I don't know. It depends if they've been working on it all for these 10 days in training. I mean, these 10 days could be very valuable to Spurs, you know?
Well, he said the 4 days have been off, obviously.
Yeah.
They've given, which I think is all right. I was thinking about it, like, why? Because obviously Arsenal went away to like warm weather training. I don't know who else did, but he said he'd rather just give the players time off, give them 4 days off, and then come back and train at the training ground because. He didn't say for any other reason, but I was thinking about it, and I think it makes sense. Like if you're training for game situations, right? Right now it's cold, it's January. That's the kind of game set the players are going to be playing in. So I think it makes sense that if you're training in those conditions, you might as well train back at home where it's going to be more similar to the game stay. And if the players want a bit of time in a hot weather country, okay, give them time off. Let them have a bit of a holiday, and no point in having a training camp in those conditions when they're going to come back and it's going to be cold and wet and windy again, and that's where the game conditions are going to be. So I kind of think it makes sense to do that.
Yeah, I don't think there's much in it, to be honest. I mean, you've seen teams go for warm weather training and come back refreshed and vitalized and play well as well. So I mean, I don't think it matters too much.
I'm not saying there's any guarantees whether one side will work or not. I'm just saying it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense either way. And I think whatever course of action you take, whether you give the players 4 days off and they go over and have a holiday in a hot country and come back vitalized, or look, I think either in every situation you can see pluses to, and I don't think there's many minuses to either of the situations, to be honest. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting game, biggest game of the season. It's the FA Cup, a cup competition that is very dear to the majority of Spurs fans' hearts. You know, when we were growing up, we had won FA Cup the most times out of everyone. 8 times when we won it in 91 under Terry Venables with that Gaza free kick at Wembley in the semi-final.
30 years now coming up.
It's madness how long it's been
since we won an FA Cup.
We used to be a cup team, and then suddenly we just fell off the face of the earth.
That was the last time we even reached a final.
FA Cup, yeah.
And
we've been in quite a few semi-finals since then.
I think what?
Under Poch, we were in 2 under Poch or 1 under Poch?
2 under Poch. We lost to Chelsea.
Yeah, and
Man United. We lost to Everton, I remember, once in the FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah, that was in the early 90s.
Early 90s. And Newcastle, I think we lost in the semi-final.
In the early 90s, we also lost to Arsenal in the semi-final.
We lost to Arsenal twice. One in the 90s and one in 2001. So how many is that? That's like 6, I think. And then we lost to Portsmouth.
Newcastle? Did you say Newcastle?
Yeah, Newcastle. I said Portsmouth. We lost to 1.
Yeah, that Portsmouth one hurt.
That was absolutely...
Do you remember that Portsmouth one? Just walking out of Wembley, me and you were just so depressed, and we're like, bloody hell, Man United and Chelsea, Arsenal and Chelsea in the space of a week, and we battered them both.
And then we lost to Chelsea in the ghost goal.
Yeah,
the ghost goal. We lost 5-1. That was terrible.
So
and
a lot of
played
semi-finals.
So well that game, and that ghost goal really cost us.
A lot of semi-finals. I mean, our record in the FA Cup for the past 3-4 years has been nothing short of shambolic.
Yeah,
nothing short of shambolic. Who have we gone out to? We've gone out to like Middlesbroughs and
Sheffield United, B team, Norwich.
That Sheffield United B team last season, that was just horrific.
We've
had some proper stinkers in the FA Cup, and it's time to put that right this weekend.
When was the last time we actually went out to a Premier League team? I can't like honestly, we've been going out to teams that we should be beating.
It can't be Arsenal in the 3rd round. 4 or 5 years ago, was it?
No, because the season after that, we lost to Palace 1-0. I remember.
Yeah.
We lost to then the season after that. We reached 2 semi-finals in a row, Chelsea and United. And then season after that, we lost to Southampton. No, we beat Southampton. I'm trying to remember who we lost to in that year.
Colchester? No, that was a League Cup.
That was a League Cup. In 2019. I'm trying to remember. Oh no, that was when we lost to. No, it wasn't. We lost to Norwich. That was 2020.
No, 2019 was Middlesbrough, wasn't it?
No, Middlesbrough was under Conte in 2022.
So what was the one under Mourinho in the penalty shootout?
That was Norwich.
Oh, that was Norwich. That was 2020.
Before that was still under Poch.
Yeah,
I can't remember. Anyway, we've lost a lot of really poor games, FA Cup ties.
But it's time to put that
Everton,
right.
5-4. Well, that was the FA Cup.
That was probably our best performance out of the lot.
That was also under Mourinho.
That was a great performance that day.
I'm talking about 2019. I can't remember who it was in 2019.
I'll tell you right now. I'm just getting it up. In 2019, 18-19 season was Palace.
Oh, Palace. Oh, yeah. Trippier missed the penalty. I remember that.
Lost 2-0 in the fourth round.
Yeah, Trippier missed the penalty.
So since we've lost to Man United in the semi-final, 17-18, we haven't been past the fifth round.
Shocking.
That is shocking. And it's time to put that right this weekend in a massive game against Man City. The best team in the FA Cup we've played since that kind of period when we got to 2 semi-finals in a row. So under the lights, like you said, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the atmosphere is going to be absolutely carnage.
You need to unsettle them.
9,000 Man City fans are going to be there as well. So they sold out their allocation. So it's going to be a treat on and off the pitch tomorrow night. I think the football is going to be a nuts game. You're not going to be able to take your eyes off it. And in the stands as well is just going to be an atmosphere to die for. So I am absolutely buzzing to be there tomorrow night. I can't wait. You're going to have Amir and Josh King in the studio here with you for the watch along. But what's your score prediction?
I said before in the preview, I said in the panel show 4-2 Spurs. I'm going to stick with it. I just think we are going to create loads of chances. I really have a feeling. I know Man City have got a very quick back line. Got Ortega doing the sweeping. You got Walker, potentially Gvardiol, Ake, and Diaz, who are very tough to get in behind. But if we do end up playing Johnson and Werner and having Maddison and Kulusevski supply them, I think unless Man City are going to be able to keep the ball as much as they want to, I can actually see Tottenham really hurting them. And I think going the other way, I think Man City will obviously get some joy against us, and I see them getting past us a few times. But I just have a feeling the way Man City play, the caution they throw to the wind with that space they leave, I can see them leaving more space than us in this one, and I can see us playing a bit more of a transitional game, and I can see us hurting them. So I've gone 4-2.
Yeah, I said 3-1 in the panel, but I'm just going to bump City up a goal, and I'm going to say 3-2 to Spurs. I think it's going to be a ferocious game, end-to-end game. I'm backing Spurs to be at their clinical best. Richarlison, a man on form, isn't he? No striker has scored more goals since Richarlison's operation than Richarlison, so we need him to carry on in that rich vein of form. I want to see Werner keep attacking that fullback, keep getting in behind Man City. Is same for Johnson as well. And if we can keep consistently providing that threat with Maddison and Kulusevski slotting in those balls behind the back door, look, I don't see any reason why we don't win this game. We should be winning this game at home against Man City. I know it's probably the hardest game you could probably have at home against the treble-winning champions at the moment. But I have belief in the team. I have belief in Ange, and sometimes it just feels a bit inevitable when those fans are like that under the lights at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. You kind of expect the win, but don't take anything away from what I just said, like getting me wrong, because I know it's going to be the most difficult game of football. And but I'm fully backing the boys, and I really think we can win this game. And I'm going into it very confident. I think that's probably a bad sign, to be fair, but I'm going to stay confident, and I just can't wait to be there tomorrow night. So that is our preview for the game. I'm going 3-2 to Spurs. Sim's going 4-2 to Spurs. Just before we get into the predicted lineup, let's get through a couple of super chats. Bobby K, member for 23 months, says big up Sim, Papa Ben, and everyone in the chat. Big up to you, Bobby K. And Andrew Din, member for 9 months, says Pep will overthink and lose against Spurs as usual. Also, Son may be back soon. Been watching Asia Cup. Korea's performance is so unconvincing. Come on, you Spurs. And yet, we've been doing watch-alongs on the Korean channel for the Son game, the Korea games in the Asia Cup, and look, Korea have not been great by any stretch of the imagination. Son hasn't been great by any stretch of the imagination, but they are through into the next round in a feisty game, which probably be against Saudi Arabia. So there's no guarantees they win that game, but I still probably back them to win.
Even if he does go out in the round of 16, he might be back for Everton, but even that's unlikely. So next best will probably be he'll probably be back for Everton, but I don't know if he'll be back to start. So I reckon he'll be on the bench for that game potentially, depending on when he flies back. So I don't know about. I think let Son just do his thing out there in Korea, and when he's back, he's back.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into the predicted lineup. Ange has done his press conference today in terms of the team news. What injuries have we got?
So very positive news about James Maddison. He is back and available. And in fact, Postecoglou said he's actually ready to start. So that's incredible news. He also said Ben Davies and Dane Scarlett are back in training as well. So that's really positive news. And Kulusevski obviously was ruled out of the game against Man United due to illness, but he's now been training with the squad again and he is available for selection. The only long-term absentees still out. Obviously, Solomon is still out. Hopefully, he'll be back soon. Lo Celso remains unavailable. Valise. Sessegnon continues his rehab, he said, but hopefully he should be back available for selection next week for Ryan Sessegnon. So I think overall, very, very positive news. And when you're looking at the injury front, only really in terms of players who we expect to start, only really Son Bissouma and Son not from the injuries, but they're away. Only really Solomon, Lo Celso, and Valise that we're really waiting on at the moment to come back.
I do think Solomon's going to be back fairly soon. So I think the only real long-term one is Valise, isn't it?
Valise, yeah.
Ben Davies is supposed to be back. Ben Davies is back in training.
Yeah.
Lo Celso is supposed to be back for the Brentford game. Solomon, I think, was supposed to be back similar time as James Maddison.
Yeah.
So the only real long term, and like you said, Ryan Sessegnon as well should be back with the team next week or something. So the only real long term one is who did I say it was? Valise, that's it. Yeah.
We finally have options.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like for so long, like we haven't had options to choose from in each position. Now it's like actually a bit hard to predict this predicted lineup.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. 4-3-3 formation. No, we're not going 3 at the back. We are sticking with the 4-3-3. And in goal, someone who is going to be so vital in this game, and that is Vicario.
Yeah, and hopefully he's going to be at his sweeping best because we all know that Spurs do like to play the high line. Man City will like to catch us out, just like we're going to look to catch them out. And Vicario has proven to be a brilliant sweeper keeper so far this season, and that's going to be very crucial. And as well, obviously, he makes big saves at crucial times, doesn't he? And I think in this game, if we're going to keep Man City at bay, Vicario is going to have a great game.
Yeah, completely agree. He's had such a good season, hasn't he, Vicario? So let's just hope he carries on in that rich vein of form. At right back is obviously going to be Pedro Porro, who also has just had such a stellar season this year, inverting into that midfield, providing us with so much creativity and threat going the other way. I just hope he keeps up the good defensive work that he's been doing. He did get caught a few times out of position against Man United.
Yeah, if Doku is starting, I do worry slightly. I remember against the game of the Etihad, especially in the opening exchanges of that game, Doku was getting a lot of joy before Porro was able to grow into the game. So obviously Doku being the master dribbler that he is a bit of a worry, but I think Porro, hopefully, with his passing range and his ability to get forward, will make them do a lot of the thinking rather the other way around. And he's been subject to a lot of talk about links to Man City, hasn't he? So let's hopefully he shows what Man City are missing.
Yeah, I saw a tweet about that, and someone quote tweeted it about Man City's interest in Porro, saying, I think it was a fake quote from Porro, and he goes, yeah, they can buy me on FIFA.
Brilliant.
But that is a bit of a theme, though, this season, isn't it? When we played the big teams, when you looked at the Man City game, you look at the Arsenal game, you look at the Liverpool game this season, one of either Porro or Udogie have come under a very increasing pressure and look to be like a bit of out of sorts in the early stages of the game, and both of them have just completely grown in. Like I remember Salah and Saka both giving Udogie big problems in the early stages, and then by the end of the game, he was probably one of the best players on the pitch. And it was the same with Porro at the Etihad.
I think as a consequence of Spurs, when they start games, I think teams know where to hurt us, and that's obviously in the wide areas. That's where we leave a lot of our space. But once we go into the games and we start to restrict the opposition from getting a foothold in the game, and we start to control it, all of a sudden it gets a lot harder for the opposition to get the supply to those wingers as regularly as they were maybe right at the start. So all of a sudden those wingers become a lot quieter, and I think that's because of our tactics.
Yeah. Moving on into the centre-back positions, on the right-hand side, obviously going to be Cuti Romero, who's probably going to have the captain's armband, or will it be James Maddison?
I believe Romero is number 2 in line, so I think it'll be him.
So he'll have the captain's armband as he did at Old Trafford. I think he had a good display at Old Trafford, a really good display, but there were a few kind of defensive lapses as well, so he needs to wipe that out of his game if we're going to keep them out at the other end. Yeah,
definitely, but I thought obviously his on-the-ball ability is so crucial in this game if we're going to be playing through what is one of the most aggressive pressing teams that you're ever likely to see in Man City. So we saw that one pass against Man United at Old Trafford, which completely split them open, and he's going to have to do more of that. I kind of expect maybe not him not to be able to find the spaces that he was able to find against Man United, but he's going to be crucial. I think the most crucial thing he's going to have to do in this game is that kind of proactive defensive nature where he kind of tackles and gets us on attack in the same movement. And if he can do that, he kind of manufactures a transition. I think those are so important in this kind of game, because if he can step in, win the ball, and then hit them very quickly, then they're going to have all that space in behind to hit.
Yeah. Alongside him, a return to the lineup at home for Mickey van de Ven, and I cannot wait to see this beautiful, beautiful man in front of my very eyes at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The last time I saw him at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, he was limping off against Chelsea. So yes, he did play against Man United, but I wasn't at the game. So I'm very excited to see Mickey van de Ven, and his recovery pace is going to be so important.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he's obviously not going to have Haaland to contend with in this game, where I'm pretty sure Haaland running in behind you is really going to be testing those hamstrings. I'm sure Alvarez will be a test in itself, but maybe not as much as Haaland, especially physically. The interesting thing is Romero and Van de Ven, Haaland, like having him or not having him gives its benefits and also weaknesses, because if you have Haaland there, he's obviously going to pin you back and he's going to be running in behind. He's going to be very strong, but you know where he is. You know what you have to do against him. When you have someone like Alvarez in a false nine, it becomes very difficult, because he comes deeper into the midfield. He picks up the ball in awkward areas. Then you have to make a decision. Do you go with him? Do you not go with him? Do you leave that space? Do you not leave that space? So in a weird way, I can understand the pros and cons of facing Haaland, Man City with or without Haaland. But Van de Ven, he had a very good comeback against Man United, and I'm sure Man City are going to try and hit us over the top, and Van de Ven's going to be sweeping it all, and he's going to have a very, very crucial game in this one.
And then to finish off the back line on the left-hand side is going to be Destiny Udogie, another one who's just had such a stellar season and who's going to be vitally important for us in this game. But like I said before, he has come under pressure early in big games this season, Liverpool, Arsenal. I just hope that both him and Porro can just kind of stand up from the beginning and not come under too much pressure. Or look, pressure's expected, but not to bow down to that pressure.
Yeah, most likely he'll be up against Phil Foden, I'm guessing, on the left-hand side. And we know how good Foden is. He's such a tricky customer. He's got such a low centre of gravity. He offers a different kind of threat than Salah or Saka do against us when we played them. Like, he likes close control. You think you have him, and then he just has a little sprint when he's close to you and he's away. And Udogie's going to have to be very, very careful in this game when facing him. So I do worry a bit about that, but I think with his strength, his physicality, he should be able to physically dominate him. That's what I hope for. But I think Foden's such a smart player. He's just got to be very careful he doesn't end up fouling him or get too close to him.
I do kind of get the feeling that Udogie's kind of like a certainty for a booking in this game. Mm-hmm. Literally a certainty. Foden probably draws the most fouls out of anyone in the Premier League, and Udogie gives away his fair share of fouls. So I'll probably say Udogie's nailed on for a booking in this game. In terms of the midfield, this is where it gets interesting. In the number 6, we're going to go for Rodrigo Bentancur.
Yeah, obviously he played in the number 8 position last time at Old Trafford, and he had a pretty good game. Obviously got a score sheet, was looking back at his best as well on the ball. So that's a really good platform to him to build on going into this game at Man City, where he's honestly going to have his work out for him. He's going to have to be as sharp as possible on the ball to make sure he's dribbling past their press, but off the ball as well. He's going to have a lot of running to do. He's going to have De Bruyne, Foden, Bernardo Silva, all players who love being in the half spaces to contend with. And he's going to need support as well from his fellow midfielders and defenders. But we know Bentancur against Man City. I've seen him have be man of the match a few times against them already, like in his career at Tottenham. He knows how to play against this team. The only question mark was, would he be in the 6? Or do we bring in a Højbjerg or a Skip and put him there and continue Bentancur in the 8? But we're predicting that Bentancur will drop back, and I think he's the best option for his game in that position.
Yeah, he's so silky on the ball. I just love watching him play. He's such a good footballer, Rodrigo Bentancur. But let's move on. Higher up in the pitch in the midfield on the right-hand side, we're going to go for Dejan Kulusevski, another player who knows how to play against Man City. And I feel like as well, like having these two guys so close on the pitch, they work so well together, Rodrigo Bentancur and Dejan Kulusevski. I think that could be a massive plus for us as well.
Yeah, but Dejan, if he is going to play this role, is going to have a very difficult job on his hands, because we know Dejan, he works very, very hard for the team. We know that. But what he loves to do is get on the ball, drive at the opposition, ask questions of the opposition, be far up the pitch. But if he is going to play that number 8 box-to-box role, he's going to have to make sure that his first priority is helping out Bentancur and making sure he doesn't get overrun and being as aggressive as possible. I know he's got the physicality to do it. I've seen him put in challenges and have games where he's putting in tackles and interceptions as well. But Man City's a different kettle of fish, so we've got to make sure if he's playing that role, he's a bit more disciplined than maybe playing in that free number 10 role where he's got a license to roam here and there. In this position, he has to be a lot more disciplined. So whether he's up to that, it's a big question mark. But we're basing this on, in the first half against City at the Etihad, he did go Kulusevski and next to Gio for a reason. I know he changed it at half-time, but we're thinking with changes in other places, that should help facilitate Kulusevski being able to play that role a lot better. So we're going to stick with him there.
Yeah. And then to make up that middle 3 is the big return for our number 10, which is James Maddison. And as much as I've said how excited I am for each and every individual player, apart from this guy is the guy I am most gassed to see on the football pitch tomorrow. What a player, best player in the Premier League after the first 10 games. And if he can bring just 60% of what he showed in the first 10 games of the season, it's still head and shoulders, above a lot of players in this league. And he is going to be so important tomorrow night. And to see a midfield 3 of Bentancur, Kulusevski and Maddison, it is like sitting here now, it is great to see and it is a bit sexy. But are we asking for a bit of trouble?
Maybe. That's the problem. I know Ange is brave, and he did it at Etihad, but he did change it at half-time.
Yeah.
So there's two ways of looking at that. He was brave enough to do it and shows maybe that was in his mind, that he wants to get on the ball and be offensive, but he also changed it when he realised it wasn't working. But was it not working because he had Davis and Emerson and Bryan Hill there as well, so he needed that extra support? Or was it not working because they were getting overrun in midfield because there wasn't enough cover there? So I'm not 100% sure.
Probably a bit of everything though, but with James Maddison as well, like he does such great work off the ball as well. So the first 10 games of the season, he was up there in the stats for like one of the best off the ball. So I don't worry about that. I do worry about it, but not as much as maybe I should.
Yeah, I mean, I think if he does it, I think it's because he's confident that the midfield players will do their defensive duties and be disciplined enough to be in there and help out Bentancur. But don't get me wrong. If he sees at half time they're not doing it and they're not helping out Bentancur enough, he'll have to change it and he'll have to get Højbjerg on. I do wonder as well how long Maddison will play for. Will it be 90 minutes? Will it be like Bentancur, where I think his first return got 60 minutes or so, yeah, and then kind of ease him back in? Depends how ready Maddison is, how match fit he is as well. But I don't think he says. I mean, maybe it is mind games from Ange, because usually when he says someone's not ready, they end up starting. And maybe now he's saying he's ready to start, and maybe
he probably won't even be on the bench.
Yeah, maybe it's mind games. It could definitely be mind games, but I just feel like Ange knows what a lift it's going to be to have him back in the team, even if it's just for 60 minutes. What an effect he can have on our attacking play as well. And if we're looking to catch Man City out and play those passes in behind, those through balls to pacey strikers, we're going to need his goal and his accuracy, and that's what he brings to the team, and it's going to be so crucial in this game. So we're thinking, obviously he's one of the vice captains as well, so we're thinking Maddison is going to go straight back in.
Yeah, and it's great to have two of the leadership team as well back in the team, which we haven't seen in ages. You know, Romero's been in and out the team for a while. Maddison we haven't seen for 3 months. Sonny obviously is away with Asia. So I think it's so important to have these leaders on the pitch, especially in a game like this. So that midfield is looking incredible, to be honest, from an attacking point of view anyway. Right-hand side of the attack is going to be Brennan Johnson. He's come under a lot of criticism recently, and rightly so, but I believe in his abilities, and I think that, especially in a game like this, is a game that he can thrive in.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I remember at the Etihad, he had a fairly decent game. We got an assist for the Kulusevski equaliser. Gave Gvardiol a bit of a tough ride on a couple of occasions. What I want to see more from Johnson is I feel like he likes the ball to feet a bit too much. I feel like he always comes short and then one likes to go on the outside and beat him out, which is fine, and he can do that. But I want to see him get in behind a bit more. I want to see him go run on the last shoulder of the defender, and we've got the players to pick him out now on the pitch. You've got Maddison, you've got Porro there, you've got Kulusevski there. If he makes those runs, he will be found. Maybe it's a case of he has been making those runs, but we don't have the players to find him in the last few weeks. But now we have those players. So I want to see him, especially in a game against Man City. I've seen where Gvardiol has his average position, almost, in the midfield on the left-hand side. He leaves all that space open on the wide area. So I need Johnson to attack that space and be as effective as possible. And if that happens, then we've got a good chance of really exploiting Man City.
Yeah, up front, the man in form, the pigeon, Richarlison, scored so many goals of late. Since his injury, or since he's come back from his surgery, he's just looked like a different man, to be honest. He seems to be able to put the ball in the back of the net, which we're definitely going to need in this game.
Yeah, the thing with Richarlison, I think obviously from set pieces, he's going to be a massive threat. When in open play, I want to see him do what he did against Man United, which is hold the ball up, win us corners, win us free kicks, be a nuisance. I don't see him being a massive threat when it comes to, Maddison picking up the ball and seeing Richarlison running behind. I don't see him getting much joy trying to beat the offside trap with a Kanji or not Kanji, but whoever's fit, Ake or Diaz and Walker as well, chasing
Gvardiol,
back. Gvardiol. They're very pacey defenders, so you're gonna have to have a lot of pace to beat them. I don't think Richarlison has that. But what he does do, what he's shown against Man United, which I hope he shows in this game, is if you get the ball to his chest, you get it to his feet, he can hold it up for you, he can win free kicks, he can buy time, he can get us up the pitch, and then maybe he can lay it off for a Johnson or a Werner to get on goal. So that's what's very important. And then from set pieces, maybe he can show his worth from goal scoring position. So I'm not expecting too much from Richarlison in terms of being a massive goal threat from open play, but he's still got a very important role to play in this game.
Yeah, it's not just that as well, but it's positional play in terms of being in the right place at the right time. When your wingers are attacking the space, be there for the cutbacks. Always be hovering around that kind of six yard box or around that area, and be clinical when it comes to you. That's what we need from you, Richarlison. And to make up that final 11 on the left-hand side is going to be Turbo Timo.
Yeah, and for me, he's going to be our most important attacker in this game, because he's the one where, if I'm looking at the front three, whose biggest strength is running in behind and exploiting the space, and Werner's biggest strength is that. So he knows that he has a big job to do, making sure he finds a space where it's being vacated, make sure he stay on side and exploit that space with his blistering pace that he's done so often. And I've seen him do it against Man City specifically as well. Without Sonny as well being available, his pace in behind to make up for that is going to be absolutely crucial. So I think if we're going to win this game, I think Werner's going to have a big part to play. Even if it's just tactical, even if he's not getting goals and assists, just him being a nuisance, continually getting into that space in behind, being found as well, but more being found in behind, or just him making those runs could force the Man City defenders to look at him and concentrate on him and leave space for others. So for me, Werner is super, super important in this game.
It's Werner on the dance floor this weekend. He's going to get his first goal in a Spurs shirt, I'm sure of it. But let's run through that lineup with you guys one more time. Vicario in goal, Porro right back, Udogie left back, Romero and Van de Ven in the centre-back positions, Bentancur, Kulusevski and Maddison in the middle three, with Werner on the left, Johnson on the right, Richarlison up top. We've given our predictions in the match preview. Sim has gone, 4-2 to Spurs in a romping FA Cup tie at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I've gone for 3-2, a bit of a nail biter, but I can definitely see many chances at either end. And look, it's going to be an occasion, win, lose or draw tomorrow, because it's going to be a great game of football, and it's going to be an unbelievable atmosphere, and I am buzzing to get down to Tottenham tomorrow. But that is your predicted lineup. That is your match preview. Just before we let you go, we've got a members chat from Michael Hellman, member for 27 months, and he says, we have a solid chance to win, but the game will definitely be heavy on the heart. And that's definitely true, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a massive game, and it really, really means a lot to Spurs fans. If we do lose, we'll be gutting, absolutely gutting. And there's obviously a big chance we'll lose, because Man City are such a great team, and maybe they'll come with their A game. And if they do play at their very, very best, there's very little Spurs can do to that, to overcome them. So that's obviously the downside of this game, playing such a great team. But that's what makes football so great, that, you know, the opportunity to take on the best and beat the best as well. And I think Ange and I think the whole team, and I don't think they're going to come into this game with any fear. I think they're going to be absolutely relishing this cup tie, and that's the most thing. I think maybe last season we'd be coming into this game fearing the worst. I really believe that. But this season is just different. And look, if we go out, it'll be gutting, but that's what happens.
We move.
As long as we, you know, really take the game to City, and in the game you can see how we would have won, and really give a good account of ourselves. That's all I can ask for. But I just really believe that we have a really good chance of rolling them over, and that's what we got to look for.
And you know what? Like, if we do win this game, with all these players that are back now, with Sonny, Basuma and Starr still to come back in a couple of weeks' time, what a springboard this can be for us for the second half of the season.
Massive, absolutely massive. Definitely getting, back into the Champions League for next season. I reckon the team are not even looking at. I reckon they're looking further up. But as fans, you know, keeping our feet on the ground, I think obviously looking at that top three. That's
why keep your feet on the ground? Ange says believe.
We can believe.
Aaron says believe.
He said, go ahead and dream. I'm looking at the table. We're 8 points behind top. I don't believe right now that that's where we can finish. But I'm looking below that, top three, and 100%. I think that's there for us. I don't see why not. I really don't see why not. So, and that'll be a phenomenal season. And if we can stay in the FA Cup, beat Man City, I mean, who knows what we can do this season? Yeah,
absolutely. But that is it from us today. You're going to have a Tottenham update coming your way very soon as well. But thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'll see you all tomorrow from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.